It's really interesting to me when Black British people say this because you do realize that you have no choice but to cling on to your ethnicity because British people refuse to allow you to have a culture within their country.
2 weeks ago, I posted a video of a Black American guy interviewing two British ladies, asking them what makes them different. And these ladies' reply went freaking viral. And it went more viral because a lot of people believe that the interviewer was edging them on and not correcting them as a Black American himself, saying so many things about Black Americans, even though that was not the exact question that was asked. Like they responded like they have been waiting to actually say those words to Black Americans, saying they do not know their heritage and all of that. It went very viral, people stitched to it. We discussed it on this channel like few weeks ago. Black American woman had stitched to that video saying that these British people need to understand the fact that they cling more to their heritage because why British people would not allow them to have a culture within their country, and that is the reason why it seems like, or they feel like, they are more connected to their heritage than Black American people. And this British creator on TikTok, a very popular one because I actually follow her, I just to the video and the video of other Americans saying that they are jealous of them in response to what these British ladies had said that interview. I have put together these clips. Just sit back, relax, and let's hear what this lady have to say about these Black American women saying they have no choice than to cling to their own ethnicity because white British people will never allow them have a culture in their country. So without wasting much time, let's just get right into it.
Different from the US, yeah, like we kind of like claim our roots a lot more. I feel like we are more kind of like culturally diverse. It's really interesting to me when Black British people say this because you do realize that you have no choice but to cling on to your ethnicity because British people refuse to allow you to have a culture within their country. Y'all house the original racists. America has its problems, but we most definitely are a melting pot. And y'all are very much so a compartmentalized cafeteria tray. British people will never allow other races to speak for their culture. In America.
Now, let me just say this first and foremost. This video does not apply to all African Americans. I've actually traveled to America and I've met some cool Black people, some well-educated Black people. This video are for Black people like her who clearly have passports and cannot afford to use them. History lesson number 1. All minorities, basically non-white people in this country today, are all products of immigration. None of our grandparents were born here. History lesson number 2. When white British people carried out their dirty work with enslavement, they never did it in England. They did most of their dirty work, if not all of it, in the Caribbean and in the Americas. Now, there were a few Black people back in the times of slavery in England, but it was not that much because white British people believed that English air was too pure of an air for a Black African slave to breathe. History lesson number 3. Not all Black people in the Caribbean were enslaved or enslaved for long. Some Black people took their freedom and maintained their freedom from colonizers. In Jamaica, these people were known as Maroons. These people came from the Akan region in Ghana and they freed other enslaved Africans. Most of them in that group still had ideas of their own lineage and they passed it on. So there are Jamaicans like me who have an idea about my African lineage. We're not all ignorant. Same thing applied to Africans. Not all African people were enslaved, i.e. moved to the Caribbean. Hence why there are still Black people on the continent. So they had the privilege of learning where they're from and learning their lineage. Meaning that is what African people will teach to their children even if they live in a foreign country. That also applies to Caribbeans. History lesson number 4. There is no such thing as white culture. White people contributed nothing to the human race. They pillaged, killed, and steal. That's their history. War and murder. So why the hell would any minority in England cling to that shit? You see, the thing about some of you African Americans, you lot stay coming on this app trying to make Black British people feel bad or try to force us to accept some shit you had no choice but to. My girls stay coming on here acting like there's something wrong with minorities living in England. Minorities living in England live better than you lot, bruv, and that's a fact. Number 1, if I lose my job tomorrow, the government will pay my rent in full, give me money to look for another job and money to pay my bills. If I get pregnant in this country, the government will give me money for my kids and give me a year off to go and raise my kids, and that is paid. If I fall down tomorrow and I go to the hospital, I don't have to pull out a credit card and a check ain't coming to my house. If I want to take annual leave from my job tomorrow, you lot know as vacation, I get paid by the government to do so and I get paid my full salary. Our educational system is clearly better than yours. If I go to university right now, the government pays my tuition, and if I never work, I never pay it back. And if I work under a certain amount, I never pay it back. And after 30 years, whatever debt is left, they clear it. If I want to go outside today and get public transport, it's not going to take me 50 years. If I want to go to another country tomorrow, I can take a train that goes under the fucking sea, bro. If I go homeless tomorrow and I need somewhere to live, the government will give me somewhere to live. Do not stay jumping advocating for America and they can't even put a self-checkout in humans airports. You're technologically behind. Your healthcare is in the trenches. Your education system is rubbish. Your judicial system is rubbish. Your prison system is rubbish. Your food is not real. They're practically making lettuce in factories, bro. There are foods that you lot eat that is banned in Europe. Your employment rights is atrocious. Your policing system is atrocious. Your gun laws are atrocious. Like, you lot have gun drills in school. At the end of the day, the young girl in the video was asked a question and she answered. It's not like she went out of her way to say anything bad about African Americans. She was asked. If you lot don't like it, press on. It is what it is. Or don't ask us nothing at all. My girl's on here talking about how, we housed the original colonizers. Fun fact, babe, the white people in America and Australia and all them places all came from the same gene pool. All came from the same oppressors, babe. This is why you man speak English. And where do you lot think English came from? And you know what's so crazy? If we're really going white people for white people, if I was to walk into America right now, open my mouth, show my passport or my driving license, these white people there will treat me better than you. Some of you lot stay coming out here being mad at minorities in England for no fucking reason at all. Even that if we are to have a little opinion that we are entitled to. And the funny thing is, a lot of you don't want to acknowledge why you're so mad at us. So let me tell you. So let me just highlight it for you. Your country is absolutely garbage and they treat you like garbage. That's why a lot of you are so fucking miserable, bruv. But understand very well, it is not the fault of British people, of British minority people. It's not our fucking fault.
So I just got done watching this live of this black British girl talking about how black Americans, we think that we're superior over all black people and that we don't even realize that in their land, there's people who came during Windrush, which is when a bunch of Caribbean people came to the UK to work for their oppressor. And that there's people who came during that time who are getting sent back to the Caribbean and that we don't understand our privilege. And it made me realize where all this like online friction between a lot of black British people towards black Americans coming from. It's coming down to jealousy. I try to tell everybody the difference between black British people and black Americans is that black British people have an immigrant story. They have an immigrant background. Whereas in America, black Americans, we're not looked at as foreign.
Oh, bless him. Went on Wikipedia, read 2 lines, came on TikTok thinking he did something. But you know what? Let me help you out. I'm going to give you a little history lesson, okay? Number 1, Caribbean islands that fell under British rule did not get independent until the early 60s and 70s. Now, the Caribbeans that came over to England came over before then because the reason why they came over was to rebuild England after the damage of World War II, which took place between 1939 to 1945. Stay with me. Now, if most islands in the Caribbean did not get their independence until the early 60s and 70s and they came to England before that, it means that the Windrush generation came here as British citizens. Meaning that the people from the Windrush generation who were deported illegally. This is why the British government stay running around naming lines after us and setting up compensation scheme for the Windrush generation. Meanwhile, what compensation did your grandparents get from the white people in America? Still ain't got that 2 acres and a mule yet, innit? Just walking around with these white people using humans for target practice and getting off prison time. Only for you lot to take to the street and march for bands. Number 2, let's start talking about immigration because you clearly don't know the definition. An immigrant or someone who immigrates is a person who leaves their country and go to another country, whether or not it was by choice. So if I was to have a baby in Jamaica and I take my baby back to England, the baby didn't come to England by choice, but nevertheless, that baby is still an immigrant. An immigrant is also somebody who is not native to a country, and black people are not native to the Americas or the Caribbean. That will be the Native Americans and the indigenous people of the Caribbean. So if your ancestor was taken from Africa just like my ancestor, and they're not native to the Caribbean or the Americas, even though it wasn't by choice, they are immigrants. Which means that everybody that follows after them are immigrants. ancestral immigrants, Caribbeans, and African Americans. Number 3, let's talk about the fact where he talked about how British people ask, where are you really from? Fun fact, minorities in this country, not only black people, do not claim a British identity because we are in tune with our culture, i.e. Caribbeans, who not every black person in the Caribbean was enslaved. Some took back their freedom and freed other slaves who end up passing on their lineage. So a lot of Jamaicans like myself are descendants of people who still practice their lineage. Exhibit A. Those are descendants of the Maroons in Jamaica today. Maroons are a group of black people that came from the Akana region in Ghana, stole their freedom, freed other African slaves, maintained their freedom against colonizers, and passed on their lineage and understanding of African culture. So it's like I said, not every Jamaican is ignorant, not every Caribbean is ignorant. We actually know, some of us, where we're actually from and the real practices that our ancestors used to practice, unlike a group of people I know. I find it so funny how he was basically saying how the British white people constantly try to tell us that we're not one of them. Meanwhile, in America, the white people are called Americans, whereas the black people are called African Americans, meaning that the white people in America too are informing you that you are not one of them by calling you an African American and not an American. But let me just clarify something. British people, whether black, African, Asian, and so on and so forth, are not jealous of African American people. The American dream is a lie. And we have the privilege of traveling and seeing the world. And we see how a lot of you live. In this country, the maximum amount of hours you can legally work is 40 hours. And if your employer wants you to work in more hours, they have to make you sign a waiver. Whereas in America, there are people who are working 95 hours a week and still can't make ends meet. And what you're saying is true. Minorities in this country do suffer from racism. Racism exists anywhere white people are located. We all know that for a fact. But we are privileged. Very, very privileged compared to African Americans. Nobody over here is living from credit card to credit card. You don't even have to. Like, if I sign off sick tomorrow, the government will just give me sick pay, pay my rent, pay my bills, and I can chill for as long as ever till I find another job or till I go back to work. Whereas if some of you lot don't clock in, you don't get paid. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's this simple. You people are fucking delusional.
Now, show my passport or my driving license. These white people there will treat me better.
Can someone tell, the London Bridge here that if she was to bring her ass over here to America, these white people will call her nothing more but a tea and crumpet nigga? Like, you are black. You're still a nigga. Oh, and actually, because you're from England, you will be treated worse. We can't stand y'all. Because y'all always bringing us up. We don't bring y'all up. We don't think about y'all. Like, the only time you were brought up is when we make fun of you niggas over the fact that we beat y'all asses in the Revolution War. Like, that's it. Like, Britain is not thought about over here. Why do y'all think that y'all are special? Especially as a nigga, baby, you would be called all types of tea and crumpet ass Negroes. A fucking Queen Elizabeth Negro. Like, please stop. She really thought, oh, if I was to go over there, white people would treat me different.
That's why a lot of you are so fucking miserable, bruv. But understand very well, it is not the fault of British people, of British minority people. It's not our fucking fault.
Listen, love, I hate to burst your little bubble, but here in America, black is black, no matter where you're from, no matter what you sound like. They do not care about your little accent. You are to them, okay? Please get that understood. And you talking about our country is dog shit and they treat us like dog shit. We can see how they're treating y'all over there in Europe, okay? And then y'all always talking about, we know where we're from, we know where we're from, but y'all are never there. Y'all are never in your home country. Why are y'all always over in Europe somewhere? That doesn't make sense. Why aren't you at home?
What do you guys think about what she said? I think the part that people are stitching from the very first clip from the British lady was the part where she said that when she gets to America, white people are going to treat her better than black people in America. So let me hear what you guys think about that part, because I see a lot of black American people literally pointing that out like, you know what, just forget that, because once you enter there, they are seeing you as a nigger just like us. Like, they are not going to treat you any better. And there were comments of some British people saying when they entered, when white American people notice or see their passport, they kind of treat them better. And I would like to hear what you guys think about that, because when I was hearing that, it kind of sounds strange. This person said, "It is true, American white treat us black British people with respect when they see our passport." Like, when I saw this comment, I was surprised, and it was liked by 6,996 people, like affirming what this person said. So let me hear what you guys think about that in the comment section. If you're British and this has happened to you as well, please share your experience in the comment section. At this point, this diaspora war, I really do not blame any black person, like whenever this diaspora war comes up, because today, if it's not African versus black Americans, it will be black British versus black Americans. There's always something going on. There's always this diaspora war going on, and I literally just blame the colonizers, because they are the reasons for all of this. This person said, "I saw this video where an African American woman said a lot of people in America think Caribbeans aren't real black people. What does that even mean? You African American, have you ever thought that the Caribbean people are not real black people?" Because I saw so many comments that this is literally my first time coming across this comment, like something like that, or those think piece. So let me hear what you guys think. Another person said, "But why do a lot of British people ask African Americans where they are from, knowing their heritage was erased? This is what I have seen on TikTok." And when I covered the video of the interview itself, where that black American man was asking those two British ladies on the street, like, what makes them different from the United States, and when I covered that particular one, this was my thought as well. If you have gone through history, know that these people's culture was wiped away from them. They were literally stolen. They were literally taken away. They could not trace anything back. I don't think asking them where they come from is one of the most sensible things to ask. But let me still hear what you guys think, because we have to have this conversation. This other person said, "My husband is from Congo, born in Belgium. He said that when he went to the US, they tried to tease him about being African. They were insecure that he knows." Another one said, "But to be honest, Americans can travel places like Miami, Mexico, and even the Caribbean from other states, and it is not expensive. So they aren't really doing too bad themselves travel-wise." Another one said, "I follow British politics between the economy, British immigration, Tory politics, and the healthcare, energy, and cost of living crisis. The USA should be the last concern of a British black person." Let me hear what you guys think about all of these comments. Of course, Black Americans, African Americans are going to defend themselves. British people as well are going to defend themselves. But I think the question of where do you come from needs to stop. Because whenever this conversation or this friction happens between these two people, I always notice that it's these same questions that's always sparking this conversation. It's either this question or maybe a Black American person saying that Black British people are jealous of them and all of that. So let me hear what you guys think about all of the things that have been said in this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.